Deputy, get everyone back inside.
Why?
Because there's a problem over there on the horizon. Any day now, I'm pretty much ready for you. Now, let's see here. I got the Queen, and I can't put her on the Jack, and I got an Ace here.
Cobb Vanth.
Think it through. Hello my friends and welcome back to Player Display. Finally, here we are with a pack that I have been long awaiting to review on this channel.
It's been 84 years.
Over here we have the Target exclusive Star Wars The Black Series, Cobb Vanth and Cad Bane. Of course, we've seen these two figures in the line before. When we saw Cobb Vanth, he was in his Boba Fett gear as he first appeared in The Mandalorian Season 2, but obviously when we saw him again in the Book of Boba Fett, now he's more stripped down. Now he's got his really cool orange and red garments. As for Cad Bane, we've seen him two other times, though a lot more laid back. He already had his Clone Wars and Bad Batch variants, but now here we have him in his very first live-action debut with a whole ton of crazy accessories to boot. No pun intended, because they're cowboy characters. Haha, get it? I made it funny. But anyways, I'm really excited about this pack, so let's just hop right into it and start with the box. So of course this box was produced during the green era of Hasbro, I suppose you could call it, because naturally, as Hasbro has said, the green boxes weren't quite working out, so they're going to be rolling them out of here and then bringing the plastic back. We have a pretty neat looking shot of both characters, a little bit too sparkly for my taste. I think these are more CGI renderings with really crazy obtuse lighting. Now here we have Star Wars The Book of Boba Fett. Of course, this pack is meant to represent the infamous scene from the show where they have that classic Western standoff, and that was totally cool. Could have definitely worked as its own standalone movie. Then we also have two individual portraits for each of them off to the side, and that was my computer downloading a game. Please ignore that sound if you heard that. Off to the side, we have the two characters once again, this time with many accessories that, well, at least one of them comes with, one of them's a little bit more laid back than the other. Guess which is which? On the back, we have the exact same portrait that we saw before on the front, but then zooming on in, we have our multilingual bios, and I've been forgetting to show off all the differently language ones going on down, so I apologize for that on behalf of reviews in the past. Going on downstairs, I'm going to make this review a little quick, so while we got all their cousins over here, we saw over a good old friend, -3.
Start audience!
Let's go ahead and start with Cobb Vanth over here, and I don't know why, but I really love his character. And when I say I don't know why, that's pretty much because he only showed up in 2 episodes, and even though I know he's a well-seasoned actor, and unfortunately his name escapes me, I don't know the rest of his profile, but the few times that he did show up in The Mandalorian, and then again in Book of Boba Fett, he had a lot of charisma, and it was really cool to just see another space cowboy. You can never go wrong with that. But of course there's another space cowboy we refer to more, who came before him, who was also part of this pack. But regardless, great figure, even though Cad Bane is obviously the main draw for this set. So over here, we have the face sculpt along with the photoreal, and the likeness is pretty goddamn solid. I really like how they got the eyes in there, they got the facial hair just right. They didn't half-ass the paint on the hair. It doesn't feel like it's kind of just dry brushed in. It feels nice and full and luscious, looking really sharp, along with the hair up top, going around to the side with the sideburns. I also really like the dual tone of the hair as well. It's a little darker towards the top, and then it's kind of got a lighter gray wash. Just that one little step alone really helps these figures to have a little bit more realism to them, so I do greatly appreciate that. As for the photoreal itself, it's a little bit on the shiny side, but nothing that can't be fixed. But yeah, overall, I think this head's pretty damn fantastic. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. On to the rest of the body, it's very similar to the deluxe variant of him that was released with the Boba Fett armor, which I unfortunately do not have. Really because I was just waiting for them to do a stripped down version of him like this, because they wanted to pair him with Cad Bane, and then apparently we got a 2-pack, so I'm like, alright, sure, I'll just work with that. But we have this really awesome looking red or dark orange scarf up at top. Kind of reminds me of Negan. Speaking of other really badass southern characters. Though we also have this really interesting looking quilted tunic, almost like his grandmother made it for him. It looks just very cozy and knitted, I suppose. It's a very nice pattern when you look up close. It's got all these little, I guess, knots or circles or something, but they are present to the touch. They are sculpted in. They're not painted or anything weird. I suppose if you're not going to do a whole ton of paint, then you can at least make up for that with some nice sculpt work, and they definitely did that here. No wash or anything, but it looks pretty good. I mean, going down to the sleeves, it gets a little bit more wrinkly. Then he also has, I'm actually just looking at these now, he has some really nice gloves if you get very close to them. Very nicely sculpted. Reminds me just a little bit of Todd McFarlane figures.
Time!
Then you also have some bare fingers out at the top in case he wants to work on his iPhone. Down to the waist, there's actually some pretty interesting things going on. So we have this belt, which is, of course, connected to the rest of the pants that's sculpted in. But then we have this floating one over here, a la Han Solo style, right? Neat little patch over there. It's probably an Easter egg of some sort. I wouldn't be able to tell you what it is. Then we also have the holster for his blaster, which we'll look at in a few moments. But then the most interesting thing here for me is we have a hitch for a lightsaber. What could that suggest? Maybe he looted a Jedi body towards the end of Order 66? I don't know. We don't know how old this guy is, really. And it goes all the way to the back. As expected, usually when we have floating pieces like this, when you turn to the back of a Hasbro figure, they kind of opt out of paint, so it would have been nice to get a little bit of silver and gold for the buttons, but I guess it's in the back, so it's not a huge deal, but, I mean, it's there. We know they can do it. They do it over here. Why not? You know, they don't even do it over here, do they? Come on. The rest of the pants, kind of neat and just battered up looking. Actually, just notice this little brown patch right there. That's pretty neat. I really like how lived in this entire wardrobe is. It feels like this is kind of his one single outfit throughout Star Wars. Now he's lost the armor, he's kind of like, well, this is kind of how I look like on most Saturday evenings, and this is what we get. Also have these interesting little nondescript cylinders holstered off to the side of his pants. Going on the way down, a little bit of a doodaddy techie bit over there. Of course, it's Star Wars. We have no idea what it is, but it makes him look just a little bit cooler and gives him some asymmetry. And you know me, one of my favorite words whenever talking about toys. Down to the boots. They got a little bit of sand, but other than that, boots are boots. I say it again. Unfortunately, there's only one single accessory when it comes to Cobb Vanth, but it does make sense considering the scene that this pack is based off of. He only has his one lone blaster, and I don't even think he fires a single shot off of it. Basically, he has that standoff with Cad Bane, and before either of them can draw, we have Cobb Vanth's trigger-happy deputy pull first, and then Cad Bane puts down Cobb, and then he lights the crap out of the deputy, which is pretty great. And as for this blaster, I don't think it discharges a single load. It's kind of just holstered until the end of the fight, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, the paint's pretty simplistic, but the choices they went with are fantastic. You have this very solid and justified gunmetal going over most of the gun, and then down here you have almost a wooden grip with a little bit of a silver hitch down there if you want a little string or something going through it. Why, I don't know, but it gives it just a little bit more realism. And as for holstering it into the figure, it's easier done than said. Just slot it right in, nothing. There's no extra little band going over it to hold it in place like other figures we've seen. And as for getting it into the trigger hand, I mean, it's that simple. Done. Don't even need to talk about it. It's that easy. Articulation is par for the course, but still pretty solid. We have this much tilt, and it is on one of the modern necks, so we do have a joint within the head and then within the lower neck, so you have quite a bit of range of movement, going all ways, basically. He's got a good amount down. How about going back? Actually, back is pretty good. Usually with Black Series, it kind of stops going back, but for him, not an issue. Swivel, I mean, looking pretty damn good. Now, as for the shoulders, we got swivel all the way around. Go out to about 90 without rotating the shoulder joint. Back in, you have a 90 hinge at the elbow. That's one of my main complaints with both figures, actually, is that the elbows don't really have that deep cut that most figures have been having these days, and that would allow it to go way past 90. That one's like a tad past, but could be a little better, I think. But you also do get a little bit of a swivel from there. As for the wrists, they are both swivel, but this one is in and out. As for the one on the right with the blaster, it is suitably up and down. You get a lot of range for that. The blaster kind of slipped out there, but yeah, you can do all the hip shot action that you want. I like how you can get it right down there, pretty much along the holster. I just think that's really good posture. They're looking pretty good for Cobb Vanth here. Nothing at all on the torso. Do we have a waist? Yeah, there's a ball at the waist, so you can go a little forward. Not too bad back. Not a whole lot of tilt, but he does have all the swivel you could ever ask for. As for the waist, we have kick up to about 90, kick back, actually not that much. And you know what? This is why. We got this almost corner sculpt at the butt right there because of that pocket. This one might come out a little bit more. Yeah, so that's in a case where asymmetry, oops, this is a case where asymmetry is not the best, but that's all right. I don't know why you'd want him doing any crazy running or jumping poses. I mean, he kind of just stands there stoic and just exudes charisma, and that's all you really need from him. Unless you need him dead on the ground, right? Or at least for a little while, because somehow Cobb Vanth returned. As for the thighs, we got a cut, so you got all the 360 swivel there. As for knees, again, it is not deep cut, which is unfortunate, but still, that single joint gives you past 90. I don't think you need any more than that anyways, so we're not losing too much sculpt in a way of the joint anyhow. No ankle swivel, as expected with Black Series, but ankles are fine. We do have, how much forward? Great deal back, and then also good old rocker. I really like this figure. I am very pleased with him. I think the one thing I would like him to have, even though obviously he doesn't have it at this point in the show, is that longer blaster that the deluxe variant had. I just think that would be pretty neat. So you have the pistol option, and then you have a dual wielding weapon that he could hold. But that's okay. Maybe I'll pick up that variant one day if it's on sale. I think it actually is, but I'll have to check. But yeah, great figure. I think he's very well done. Now let's roll right into the who I have called several times in this channel the No Country for Old Men Cad Bane. That's just a name that works for me with this guy. He's an awesome figure. I do have a few complaints about him, but overall, I think they got the likeness dead on. It looks absolutely fantastic. It would actually help if we went ahead and removed his iconic hat so you could see the rest of the face sculpt. It looks absolutely gorgeous. I really love the eyes that they did. There's definitely some photoreal occurring, especially if you look in a little more closely, you could see it is a little bit printed in. The difference between this version, there's actually two differences, which we'll talk about as we go a little bit lower in the figure. The most obvious difference being between this one and the standard release is this one has a unique head sculpt. The first release came with just pretty much a placid mouth, not really any expression, just very stoic, and in a way a little bit more creepy. But here you have kind of that classic Clone Wars snarl, which he has a little bit more of in the last episode of Book of Boba Fett. As for the flesh, I think it's a really nice color, but that's kind of going to bring me out to the rest of the figure for one of my gripes. It's kind of tricky because Disney Plus does a certain thing with their TV shows where they dial the colors and the brightness up and down depending on the situation. Because, God forbid, a kid sees the color baby blue, they have a seizure, and then they explode into confetti. So as a result of those stylistic choices, it's really hard to gauge the colors on certain characters and events that we're seeing in the new Disney Plus shows. As for Cad Bane, I expected his garments to be darker and for his flesh to be lighter because, of course, again, he's older. He's kind of the old man bounty hunter at this point. Here, I feel like this could be a live-action Clone Wars version of him, just with a new, slightly varied outfit. So I wish that they would have pushed the aging factor forward a little more with him, and that could have been done if they toned down the blue, dialed down the saturation on the flesh, and as for the clothing, given it just a little bit of a wash or made it a little bit more dark. But regardless, it still looks fantastic. This is more akin to how he looked in his second episode of Book of Boba Fett than in the actual duel this pack is meant to represent. But really, that's my only huge gripe with this figure, and even then, it's still fantastic and a lot of fun. Although, you're looking at this figure and you're like, wait a minute, don't you have another gripe here that's pretty blatantly obvious? And yes, I do. You see, we have his two breathing tubes over here, and one of them is popped right out. That was not my fault. As soon as they opened the box, this was already removed. As for this one, it's not even removable. It's glued in. There's no peg or anything. This is an easy fix. Just get a little bit of glue, socket that in. I could have fixed that at any moment, but I just wanted to show you guys just so you know that that can happen. It might happen. I don't know. Another reason why it's important that they roll out the green boxes, right? Going back to the head sculpt and off of those many tangents, I apologize, is probably one of the best parts is that we get this metal head plate. And for those of you who don't know the lore as to why he has that, is there is a deleted scene from the later episodes of the Clone Wars where he has a very similar standoff with a more mature Boba Fett, and they each manage to graze each other in the head. And while it appears that Cad Bane is dead, Boba Fett has a dent in his helmet and then walks away, and that's how he got that iconic detail in his aesthetic. As for Cad Bane, though, he managed to survive that fight and survive to fight another day. And obviously, that deleted scene is confirmed canon by this particular aesthetic choice. I mean, I guess it happened in the Bad Batch first. No, it happened with Book of Boba Fett first. So this figure basically confirms that even though that scene is ill-refined, it is now canon. You can watch it on YouTube, not right now if you want. Well, not right now. Please stick around and finish the review, please. I think I'm pretty okay. Continuing with respirator tubes, they come back around to this main pack off into the back, and that is molded right onto the rest of the trench coat, or whatever you want to call it. Wish they would have had a little bit of a silver wash or bring it out a bit more, but again, it's on the back of the figure. That's usually where Hasbro kind of cops out, but that's something that could easily be done on one's own accord. As for the jacket, it is pre-Cad Bane. It's exactly what you expect him to be wearing. This is a removable piece, but I'm definitely not removing it. I think a challenge would be, especially since these tubes, well, they both should be glued down, and then also you'd have these lighter brown sleeves, which would kind of clash with the darker tunic that's on the inside. I feel like they wouldn't match up too well, but yeah, because these sleeves are meant to match with the loose jacket, obviously. Not going to talk about every single detail. There's so many special little rivets, dashes of silver, a little bit of red right there. I mean, here you go. It all looks really fantastic from pecs to waist. It just looks really good. Then here's where we get to the second difference between this deluxe Cad Bane and the standard release that I think has also released. I'm not too sure yet. That might still be on pre-order. But we have the two gauntlets here, and I don't like how glossy they are. I wish they were a little toned down. But it is worth mentioning that the sculpt is different, at least from what I can tell from the product shots. I do not have the standard version of this guy on hand, nor do I plan on getting him at all for obvious reasons. But the thing that's different here is that you have two slots in each gauntlet. So focusing on one, they're both pretty much identical in the slot department. Over here, we have this really big peg hole right up here, and then we also have a little bit of a notch towards the wrist. That'll be a lot more important once we start talking about accessories. As for the hands, both are pretty much the same. They're both trigger hands. We got a glove, got his blue Duros digits, looking very sharp, and also the skin tone matches up pretty well with the face. Obviously, these are a little more dull-coated, but the face a little bit too shiny for its own good, so I'm going to work on that, but I feel like after I dull-coat this, the fingers should match up a little better, and the face might be a little more pale, so that's something you might want to consider if you're a customizer. Down to the waist, you get the holsters, and the details just continue. We have the two blasters already in there. Of course, he only uses one in the actual Book of Boba Fett show, but both of them sling in there beautifully, looking really good. Down to the feet, I actually really like these little cylinders that go around each angle. Not all the way, but kind of just a little over halfway each one. To this day, I don't know what these cylinders are, even though they're on so many different Star Wars characters, but I really like those details. I like how bulky they feel. They just add a little bit more weight to the lower half of this figure. Then we also got his standard boots, and boots are boots. I say it again. Now let's hop on over to accessories for this Cad Bane. So firstly, he has his two blasters, which are identical, and they do indeed vary from, at least as far as I know, the Clone Wars version of Cad Bane. I do have that figure, but unfortunately, I'm having more water issues in my bedroom, so I can't really access him at the moment, but those blasters are definitely different sculpt, different paint. These ones are darker, and then the scope is lowered. So these are unique sculpts, especially for this old man Cad Bane, but even the grips are really interestingly done. I like how it's not just straight brown. You also have a little bit more of that gunmetal continuing onto it, so I really appreciate that. And while we have these two out, we should bring out two more very special accessories, which I feel like they should be doing with every single Star Wars character with a firearm, but whatever, we get it here. But anyhow, we get two blast effects, which are interchangeable between these two blasters. I mean, not that it matters, both blasters are identical, but the effects are not. You can see one is shorter and one is longer, both made out of a very beautiful translucent yellow and red plastic, and they look absolutely excellent. You see, if you line up the ends of the blasters right there, one is certainly longer, so it looks like he shot off this shot a little bit earlier, and this one's just coming out of the chamber. It's really great, and again, more asymmetry. Gotta love it. We also have Cad Bane's hat, which we kind of already looked at until we wanted to look at the plate on his head. But yeah, pretty standard Cad Bane hat. I don't know why he keeps getting smaller with every iteration of him. But regardless, it goes on his head just fine. And it stays on pretty well. You don't really need to feel the need to find that sweet spot. So you can turn it upside down. No shake, no rattling noises whatsoever. So it stays on just fine with friction alone. Not going to need any tack or anything. And funnily enough, I'm hearing fire truck sirens outside as we move on to this last really awesome accessory, being his flamethrowing gimmick, which is really cool. So I was talking about those pegals before, and that is because you can use this flame effect on either gauntlet. So I guess we'll use it on this one here. You see that I actually really appreciate this minor detail is you have a main peg for the actual flame to plug into, but you also have this extra little hitch down there to give it a little bit more gravity support. It's a very nice, tough plastic, not too bendy, definitely stronger than the blast effects from the blasters. But when you want to pour it in, it is easier done than said. Once more, let's get in the slot. You can see that little hitch gives it just a little bit of support right in there, and then it comes straight out. I don't feel like it's drooping down too much at all. I've certainly seen that with figures that have tried to do something similar in the past, but if you push out just a little bit, yeah, it comes out about that far, and that's fantastic. Just right for countering any old Rancor attack. Looking really awesome. The articulation's okay, but it's a little bit hindered because of the jacket, and again, as I said with Cobb Vanth, this figure unfortunately feigns away from using the deep cuts in the knees as well as the elbows, but it's still pretty good overall. You have that much tilting in the head, again, same dual jointed system in the neck, that much forward, not too bad, a little bit back. Also got swivel, but you don't want swivel at 360, obviously, because of the tubes. As for shoulders, all the way around, one thing I forgot to mention is that he actually has butterfly joints in there, which do allow for some considerable movement, so he can go a little further in so he can get his blasters more straight out. You can't, like, crunch his hands together, per se, but those do a pretty fine job right there. Actually, let me go ahead and just get the blasters in for the rest of this review, just because of why not. But yeah, those go in just fine. Very easy. The hands are nice and malleable too, which is always a good thing. But yeah, he can get his blasters pretty much straight out. I mean, a little off, but yeah, without those butterflies, you would have a lot of trouble getting this Cad Bane into some cool dual-wielding poses, even though he doesn't do that in the show at all. But yeah, the elbows, they come out past 90, dramatically past 90 without rotating the shoulder. As for the elbows, yeah, that's one of my complaints with the cut joints, is because the sleeve clashes with the gauntlet and it can't even reach 90, which is kind of a bummer, but I mean, when you're going to have him with the blaster out more often than not, really not a big deal. As for the wrists, both of them swivel, and then they also hinge up and down pretty much in equal measure, so you don't need to worry too much about one being not as malleable or mobile as the other one. As for the torso, nothing at all, but we do have a little bit of a ball joint between the lower torso and the waist, so you can go that far back, a little forward, though the trench coat kind of polygons out, if you get what I mean there. A little bit of tilt, but he's not the kind of guy who's going to be doing a whole ton of gymnastics, at least in this period of life. He doesn't even have rocket boosters or anything like he used to. As for legs, kick out past 90, which is fantastic. Going back with the jacket on, I can't imagine much. That's pretty much all you're getting. As for knees, Actually past 90. Okay, so I'll give it some props for that. And then ankles, we do have a swivel at the boot, which is pretty fantastic. Then you also have that much back in the ankles, that much forward, and then we got a rocker. I really do love this figure. I mean, there are little tiny aesthetic nuances I wish could be different, but overall, I mean, it's old man Cad Bane. It works. He does just fine for me. So again, because of the way my bedroom is, size comparisons are going to be a little bit limited. I kind of just grabbed what I had available to me. So over here we have the Bandai The Last Jedi model kit of Captain Phasma, which is really kick-ass and really fun to build. I highly recommend her. Then we also have the Star Wars The Black Series Book of Boba Fett! And he is also wielding the gaffy stick that came with the Tython variant, in case you want to reenact his final... In case you ever want to reenact his final duel with Cad Bane, and I think that would do just fine. They both look really good together. Also got Boba Fett's helmet down there, and there's the little dent I was talking about. So they each have a wound on the left side of their definitive looks, apparently. Then last but not least, we have our newly engineered Mechamuck! Oh no! Charming Southern guy's dead, and his last dying wish was for me to take the soda off his hands. He would have liked that.
The Coke belongs to the Syndicate.
Oh yeah, Blue Brother? Well, your ass belongs to me.
I'll drink.
Ow, you bastard! That was brand new! Fine, I'm just gonna try something different.
Where's Toto when I need him?
And that's a cap on this review of two fine Target exclusives. I don't like saying the words Target exclusives. I already went on my rant about how I very much dislike the principle of what an exclusive is, but I'm not going to do that again here. For those of you who are interested in my rant, then go ahead and check out my review on the McFarlane Two-Faces Batman and Jokerized Batman. Regardless, I think the crunch point for me is as long as I can get it, I'm fine. And as for these guys, as soon as they were announced, I pre-ordered them straight away. And I'm not disappointed at all. Like, really, my only complaints that came from these guys solely came from the Cad Bane. But that's just because I really love the character a lot, and I've studied his aesthetics quite a bit. Also, I've been playing with him for different mods in Battlefront 2 and things like that. So there are certain color choices and preferences that I have with him, which are not necessarily Hasbro's fault if they don't emulate every single little preference I have within this one toy. I guess the more objective things that you could complain about is that the elbows don't have deep cuts on either of these figures, and then you have that one loose cord in Cad Bane's respirator over there. That's a really easy fix. As for the joints, would have been nice if they would have upgraded them a bit, especially since that's kind of what they've been doing from here on out. Both of them can be embodied in one single word: swagger. Both of them are very cool to look at and to have together, or just to have with your other figures. They're just both two really cool space cowboys. You got, I guess, you have the good, and you got the bad, then you got the ugly. You got kind of a threesome going on here. Maybe not threesome, but you know what I mean. I just feel like they do help to complete a certain pocket within my Scum and Villainy shelf, especially since we kind of have a good guy cowboy now, and then we have the worst of the worst at his worst state. So that's about all. Thank you guys very much for watching. If you enjoy this content that we've done today and what we've done in the past and are looking forward to more in the future, then please, as per usual, be sure to like, comment,
And subscribe. Or leave a bad review for your favorite comic book movie on Rotten Tomatoes.
That's all I gotta say. I'm pretty much out of steam, so thank you very much for watching. Rock on, and I will see you all later.
84 years.